Perfect. Go live. You know what? Let me come in from... Okay. Let me sign in. Sorry, guys. I was just having some tech issues. Go here so I cannot use this screen. Join. Okay. Sorry. So this. Okay. Here we go. This is what we want. This is what we're looking for here. Sorry about that. Anyways, I'm the founder of Soothe Beginnings. Let's see. So pull it up over here. So many screens. It's a delight. Okay. Great. All right. So, well, welcome. So tonight we are going to talk about pacifier weaning. It is very much something we struggled with, and especially somebody that has a pacifier company, I figured that would be a great thing to help other parents out with. Pacifier weaning is one of those really stressful times. Our daughter was a pacifier junkie for sure. She was a colic baby that had reflux, and pacifiers can help with reflux. It was one of those recommended things we do. So we did everything we could to try to find her a pacifier. And when we finally found her a pacifier, this girl would not let go. But it was one of the best things to happen to make our lives so much easier. For sure. Okay. So when we started pacifier weaning, there's a lot of things I'm going to talk about. How do you know if your child is ready? What's the difference between them and the usual ones? I think Robin is handling. Robin, are you handling the chat over there? Sorry, I didn't notice I had comments coming in. I was busy getting everything set up. Sorry about that. So anyways, so we really struggled trying to find a pacifier. We found one that she liked, and that was her everything. It really, really was. So around, my daughter was about a year old, and she had her pacifier in her mouth all the time, to the point, and I to this day appreciate this. Usually you don't appreciate people, I wouldn't use the word butting in, but saying, hey, like, as an outsider, this is kind of what I'm noticing. I was a first-time mom. I didn't know any better. My sister said to me, hey, do you think the pacifier, because she had it in, like I said, all the time, is part of why she isn't really wanting to talk much? And I thought about it, and it's like, that's actually a really great insight. Yes, I will definitely be answering questions tonight. If you do want the free guide, so the guide is going over the whole process, how to, when to, all of that. And I'm going to be talking more in detail tonight as well. You can actually get it to your email inbox right now if you go to my link tree under pacifier weaning guide. You guys can actually get the guide You can follow along. It'll go in your email. If it's something you guys want me to send you tonight, feel free. Just shoot me a message with your email address. I will fire off that guide to you. It's totally free. So definitely either message me or go to the link tree. And I will definitely, you'll get that guide instantly through the link tree. And we've got a few guides up there, which are pretty handy dandy helpful. So my daughter was about a year old. My sister was noticing, hey, she's kind of not talking a lot, but she's always got a pacifier in her mouth. And it got me thinking, my daughter was very distractible. What if I used that to my advantage? Because as she gets older, I was worried, would that change? So it was very interesting. I took advantage of it. And again, every child will be very different. And there's going to be things you notice with your child that you can use to make this process go a little bit smoother. And within the guide as well, there is room and grace for every parenting style is different. Every child is different. Every child's needs are different. And it's definitely a transition. So whether you're somebody that's looking at more of a cold turkey approach, like the pacifier fairy, or if you're somebody that's looking to go more gradual, there are actually going to be some overlaps in this process. So keep all of that in mind, and I'll definitely be answering questions. So at what point do pacifiers affect teeth? That's a really great question. Every child is going to be a little different. Which pacifier they have can actually make a difference. Typically, dentists, so the American Academy of Pediatric Dentists recommend between the age 2 and 4, preferably closer to 2. Something to keep in mind when weaning, earlier can be easier. That was our experience, but there are going to be children out there that are very emotionally, socially mature and can make that decision for themselves. If they are, Mr. or Miss Independent, I'm a big girl now, use that. Absolutely use that. So the way I've broken down the guide, we have kids that are over a year old. So you've got your toddlers, and then you have your babies less than a year old. I did break up the guide into 2 different age groups because there's going to be different sleep strategies. I love your, oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad you love my page and the info. I beyond appreciate that. Thank you so much. So with all of this, I worked with an incredible group of sleep consultants. Safety is a major priority here. I'm not going to say, hey, replace your 6-month-old's pacifier, their comfort item, with a lovey for bedtime. We're not saying, we are keeping it safe and age appropriate. So let's start with our toddlers, because I think that's where a lot of us are going to live. A lot of us. Your toddler. Earlier weaning can be easier. Keep that in mind. But again, you know your child. Are they, like my daughter, easily distractible? Is that something we want to tap into? Are they headstrong, determined, and very independent? Is that something we want to tap into? Playing into them being a big kid? This is going to help you know which approach you kind of want to start with. Timing. Our first step is understanding timing. You do not want to get rid of their pacifier if you are going through any major life changes. If they are potty training, you're moving, starting a new school, we don't want to do that. That is too much all at once. It's going to make things so much more challenging on them. Okay. So definitely keep that in mind. Something, else with timing is the pacifier getting in the way of speech progression. That was our problem. And that was my aha moment of like, okay, she's not wanting to talk because she's got a pacifier in it all the time. And she is distractible. So I was kind of like pulling strategies based on where my child was at and her personality traits. And that's what I was finding. You're going to want to prepare your toddler and not necessarily spring this upon them. Talk about it with them. There are books. You can talk about the excitement of the pacifier fairy. There are different ways that are age appropriate and your child appropriate to talk to them. And, start saying why it's time to be doing away with it. So again, that's going to be very child specific. Um, I have nieces that are headstrong, independent. They love being that mature big kid. So that's something you can talk about. Hey, big kids don't, use their pacifiers, and start talking about that. You can gradually limit pacifier use. Now, again, do as you feel is right. You can start keeping it to bedtime and nap time only. You can maybe start working away with, if they're excellent and go down for a nap and don't typically need one, like if you're starting to see those cues where they're not putting it in their mouth all the time, you can lean into that and kind of have it out of sight, out of mind. So you can start limiting their access to it. We do need to reduce the accessibility in a different way. Gather all the pacifiers in your house. Do a roundup. Because the second they find one, it's undone. It is all undone. You need to look where they have stashed them, where they could have stashed them. Check your diaper bag. Check your car. Check all the things, all the places. My daughter was hiding them in her bed, under her pillow, behind the mattress, in her animal pit. Check all the places. You do not want to undo anything. Okay? One of the very important things is to, whatever boundaries there are that you are setting, you have to keep them. You have to be consistent. I have to laugh at your daughter hiding all her passies. Precious. Yeah, I'm going to tell you our pacifier weaning story after I go through the guide with you guys, because it was hysterical. The approach I wanted to take was backfiring, actually. And it was just very interesting how that all went down. So yes, so round up your pacifiers. Huge, huge, very big, important thing. And whatever boundaries you're creating, stick to them. Consistency is absolutely, absolutely, absolutely key. The sleep consultants I worked with on this guide were like, consistency is everything. It really is, because they're going to know and learn they can get away with things, or you're not being serious about it, and now you just made things 20 times harder and there's more crying, and nobody wants any of that, right? We want to make this as painless as possible for everybody. Now, if this gradual reduction, if those boundaries are actually making things worse, are you finding that, okay, we are limiting the pacifier to bedtime and nap time only? Now my child is becoming a psycho about their pacifier and hyper aware of it. We might need to readdress our approach, rethink it a little bit, because if we're making things worse, it's not great. But also keep in mind, this may not happen overnight. Some kids may need up to 2 weeks. It can take as quick as, in our case, once we made the switch and decision, we were able to do it overnight. I will explain how we did it. Some kids need a few days and they get with the program. Some kids need a couple weeks to get with the program, and that's okay. They take their time. So if this gradual reduction of pacifier is making things worse, we are going to skip ahead to more that cold turkey approach. Before I get there, I do want to talk about one of the steps being using positive reinforcement. I know that can be such a hard thing if your child's having a meltdown or they're asking for it. Um, One of the best ways I like to explain this is I use positive reinforcement to teach my child patience, even when she's not being patient. And now she mimics back to me, have to be patient. So I know she really wants that donut and she's got to wait in line. Honey, you're doing such a good job being patient. You're a big girl, you're being patient, you're waiting. Positive reinforcement, even if things are a little rocky, but also doing the groundwork when they're not in those heightened emotional states, because they definitely hear you better and will latch onto things better when they're not in those heightened states. Okay. Hi, Felicia. So keep that in mind. Positive reinforcement, extra praise, extra love, extra cuddles. We are taking away their comfort item. Some parents are going to want to do a reward system, and that's okay. Reward system for pacifier free periods could be stickers, special activity. A lot of the experts recommend away from doing food-based rewards. Parental discretion. Do what you feel is right. One of the other things you want to be doing, so if your child is 1 year old or older, right? So this is what we're doing right now. Over a year old, we've got a toddler, is be introducing a lovey, another comfort object. I'm so sorry, I skipped this. This was part of step 1 of understanding the timing for your child. Introducing a lovey. If that could be a blanket, a stuffed animal. If they're having a rough time during the day, hand them that lovey. Have that start becoming a comfort item. Instead of just offering the pacifier, let's offer them that lovey. So over a year old, you can offer them those comfort items to kind of take that place. Okay. So positive reinforcement. Now, here's where we are if you are either needing to switch tactics or this is the tactic you would rather go with. So you did your prep work. You went through timing, you started introducing comfort items, you are talking to them about it. We're starting to go in that direction. The cold turkey option, you can do pacifier fairy. If you have never heard of the pacifier fairy, it's a cute little concept of kind of like the tooth fairy. They come, they take your pacifier, they might leave you a gift. Could be money. I don't know if that's what motivates your child. It could be a new stuffy, if that's what your child would like. Could be a new squishmallow. That would make my daughter beyond thrilled. So there's all these different things you can do. Okay. There are families that will actually go out in their garden and make an activity together, which I think is super sweet, creating an experience together of planting their pacifiers in the ground in like their garden, covering them up. And the next morning there's either lollipops in their place or flowers or surprise, whatever the case might be. Okay. You can also go to Build-A-Bear and put the pacifier into the bear and they're stuffing and then they sew it up. So they're still getting a comfort item. They still kind of have their but they're not sucking on their pacifier. It's inside the bear. That works for some kids as well. Again, and I did make this its own step. Be consistent. You have to be consistent. Once you start the process, if you revert, you are making things so much harder on yourself and your child. Make sure all the caregivers, parents, grandparents, school, whatever it needs to be, whomever it needs to be, make sure everybody is on the same page, okay? Make sure we're all on the same page. Setbacks can and may happen. Offer comfort, reassurance without reintroducing the pacifier. And as much as you can, remember to be patient if you need to do some breathing exercises for yourself. However, you can keep your cool to encourage your child gently. This is a very big deal for them. This is their comfort item. Their, like my daughter, it was her everything. It was her BFF right there. So keep that in mind. A couple of additional tips. Do not cut the pacifier. That can pose a choking hazard. They're not tested to be cut. They can have sharp edges. It just introduces some unknowns, some safety concerns. So I do recommend against doing that. Sometimes toddlers are looking for their pacifier because they have physical pain, growing pain, their 2-year molars are coming in. If you can avoid doing this during the 2-year molars, I recommend it. The 2-year molar was not a favorite in this house. That was something else. But keep in mind, they might have physical discomfort going on. So, I mean, if they're sick, I wouldn't choose that time to take away the pacifier. Okay. Address like teething issues, sickness, address those issues separately. Okay. Pay attention to your child's emotional state throughout this process. They're probably going to need extra love, extra cuddles, extra comfort, and do understand it can be a different time frame process for each child. It's a new normal to them. It's a totally new normal. It's a very big step for toddlers, and it's a hurdle for parents. It's scary and it's a lot. Every kid going through this journey is going to be a little bit different, so you can totally tailor the steps how you need. If the pacifier fairy isn't for you and the gradual weaning seems to be what your child's responding to, by all means, not a problem. Okay. Take those as you need. Does anybody have questions on the toddlers before I go into 1-year-old or younger? Any questions? Okay. All right. I'm going to move on to removing your pacifier from a infant, 1-year-old or under. Now, what crazy person is taking away their pacifier from a 1-year-old or younger? Interestingly enough, so I work a lot of sleep consultants and newborn care experts. A lot of them recommend doing away with the pacifier, some of them as early as 4 or 5 months. There's going to be unique approaches to each family. There's going to be unique approaches to each child. It will be what it will be. Okay. So, gentle weaning is definitely a more digestible approach. Whether you have a baby or a toddler, we are teaching them new coping skills. Keep that in mind. Your age-appropriate coping skills for a toddler are going to be different than a less than 1-year-old. So let's talk about timing. Again, we're going to make sure they're not sick, try to avoid teething. Some babies start showing they don't need that constant, it's called non-nutritive suck, that comfort sucking. They might actually start with the pacifier on their own, take advantage. If they might be in what's called the pacifier loop. This happened to us. I wish I knew then what I know now. There will be a point that there can be a point. The pacifier actually starts waking your child up more. You're getting worse sleep because of the pacifier. It falls out of their mouth, they bumped it, they removed it, whatever. They're waking up, they're looking for that pacifier, and they don't have the skills to put it back in on their own. You can take that opportunity to decide, do we teach this child how to put their pacifier back in their mouth? That's what we did. It was a miserable 2 weeks. Again, wish I knew Now, wish I knew then what I know now. Or if it's coming out of their mouth, it's waking them up at night because it came out of their mouth. That is a sign it can be time to get rid of the pacifier, because the pacifier has now become what's called a sleep prop. They are relying on the pacifier to fall asleep. And working with the sleep experts, they reach a certain age that's not great for them. We do have other techniques to teach them how to soothe and comfort. All babies are born with the need to suck. They actually start before they're even born, okay? So they're born with that need for sucking. And it's a comfort thing, but it is a survival thing. It is what's making their feeding more efficient. So practicing that that suck, swallow, breathe coordination makes feeding so much more efficient. So there is a certain point, which nobody has determined which point that is, that the need for non-nutritive suck now becomes a habit. This is where do what works for you, your family, your child. But if they're starting to kind of, with the pacifier, couldn't be, take the opportunity, right? Why not? If it really is becoming an issue for sleep, you're going in there all night long, popping that pacifier back in like we were, you can use that as an opportunity. If you want to keep your child on the pacifier longer, you do what works for you. This is a zero judgment zone. You are your child's best parent. You are. So, determine the right time. Any questions on timing for a less than 1-year-old? I don't see any questions. We should make sure I haven't missed anything. Okay. So, the next step, again, gather all the pacifiers. Round those babies up. You don't want your now 6-month-old crawling around. Crawl at 6 months, 7 months. You don't want them crawling around finding one that fell under the couch or something and popping it in. Now you're like, oh no! You don't want that problem. Round up those pacifiers and put them where only you have control over when and how they get them. So this is where we are going to start strategically limiting the pacifier use to nap time and bedtime. So if they're using it all the time, we're going to start doing it for nap time, bedtime. Go as slow, as comfortable as you need to. If they have a daytime upset, if you can't offer them a stuffy during the day with supervision, do that. There are also alternative soothing techniques, okay? White noise. Most of us are using white noise machines these days anyways for our babies. White noise, it can be an alternative cue for bedtime, because setting them up for bedtime can really affect, I caught you up. Hi, Josie. Hi, Amanda. Hi, Josie. Catching them, where was I going with that? Okay. Sound machine. So that can be their cue. So bedtime, this is where I was going. Bedtime and how the bedtime routine and how that goes is typically a great indicator for how the night will go. So having a good sleep routine is really going to be what's helpful in setting them up for getting rid of the pacifier. There are what's called the 5 S's, okay? So it's the like shushing, side/stomach position. If your child is already flipping, you can do that. So these are going to be very age specific. So if you've got a 6-month-old, it's going to look a little different than if you have a 4-month-old, okay? So definitely keep that in mind. Swinging and shushing. At this point, they are too old for swaddling. You don't want to swaddle them too long because it restricts their movement. Now you're now affecting their ability to start practicing flipping, rolling, all that good stuff. So, alternative soothing techniques and the 5 S's for comfort. And again, this is all in the guide. If you want, it's a totally free guide. If you want the guide, you can either DM me, or you can go to my link tree and it's the first one on the top, pacifier weaning guide. You can actually get this in your email right now. So those are definitely things to keep in mind. Now, talking more about the sleep environment for a baby that's a year old or less. Establishing a bedtime routine that does not depend on the pacifier. That could include, so we've talked about the white noise, right? We've talked about the shushing and the swinging, and it could be quiet reading time. It could be soft songs. One thing that is actually really helpful that we did is we started doing this actually right from the jump with our daughter. We do her, her books, and, we'll let her play a little bit, but we'll read to her, things of that nature, and, do our hugs. We always sing Baby Beluga every single night. We shut the big light off. She's got a night light that is on for just that song. Her white noise machine goes on before the song. That song to this day is what makes her rub her eyes and start yawning. That is her. It's bedtime. This is the last thing we're doing. If you employ a song, make sure it is the last thing you're doing. So there isn't other things, like keep that consistent. Another thing, keep it consistent. We still literally, like I said, she knows, sing our song. We sing Baby Beluga. She sings with us now, which is adorable. But that her brain is cued in to that being her sleepy time cue. She gets Baby Beluga as the final thing, and she gets her hug and kisses and goodnight. It works for us. It works. So see what you want as part of the routine. Keep it consistent so those cues actually click for your baby that, hey, it's bedtime or nap time, and stick to it. Now, especially with this age, or toddlers as well, if you are struggling with creating a bedtime routine, you're living in chaos, you're all over the place, it's a hot mess. I've been there. I was there. It was my sister, my cousin. They can all attest to what we went through to try to get our child to sleep at night. Gold Coast Doulas is phenomenal, and they have been part of this guide with me. Incredible team of experts that can work with you, meeting you where you're at, where baby is at. And we're not sitting here saying, hey, baby just needs to cry it out. Not at all. We are talking about real, actual helping establish routines that help your child cue, hey, it is bedtime. Things of that nature. As much as you can, remain patient through this process. Stick to your routine. Again, teething, or if they're sick, can definitely make this more challenging, and address those issues separately. And consistency, again, with all caregivers is really going to be here. A few additional tips. Make sure any new comfort item you are introducing to your child, make sure it is age appropriate. No stuffed animals or pillows or blankets in the crib for a year old. We want to encourage safe sleep. Okay. Again, don't cut the pacifier. That can pose a choking, and also like a sharp edge hazard. So you just don't want to go down that road. Again, some kids get with the program pretty quickly. Some take a little bit longer. Every child is going to be different. Every situation is going to look a little different. So do what works for you. If you do have some questions as well, you can absolutely reach out. You can DM me your email address. I will send you the guide tonight. You can go to my link tree, and it is the top thing right there, the Pacifier Weaning Guide. You will get that instantly. It is totally free. Literally, it's basically everything I went through, but with less chit chat in there. And I did include my weaning story as well, which I will now tell. So my daughter was 13 months old, and about a month prior, my sister had noticed, hey, she's got the pacifier in all the time. And, you know, when are you going to, is that affecting her speech? Like it was lovingly said, and I'm glad it was said. I was a first time mom, and she was my support, that I was like, hey, this is going on. What do I do? She was that person. She still is that person. We all need, older sisters are phenomenal. So she had pointed that out. I was like, okay, you're right. Okay. And we had been through a lot with trying to get our daughter to sleep at night, to the point I actually went through a sleep training program with her when my husband was kicked out of the house because he had COVID. We were under so much stress because when our daughter was born, I had postpartum depression. Our daughter was a colicky newborn that had reflux. We lived in a very sleep deprived state. It was awful. We were very traumatized. Once we got her sleeping, we were willing to do anything to keep her sleeping. Anything. The second she'd make a noise, we're like, like it was that difficult of a time. So when we did find a pacifier, our daughter took, and she became a little pacifier addict. We were like, yay, thank God. And I knew on the back end, we were going to have to take that pacifier away. I knew that. I did want to keep the pacifier though for a year, because pacifiers can reduce the risk of SIDS. Now, we don't know, there's correlation, which doesn't mean causation here, but a lot of studies have shown the use of pacifiers do help. So you, as a parent, you do what you need to do for peace of mind in your child. So, she was a little pacifier addict. So she was 13 months old. We're like, okay, we're going to start slowly getting rid of the pacifier. We limited her to bedtime and nap time. And she very quickly was like, oh, I'm awake now. You're taking this? She would cover her mouth and soccer dive. She would gather up all her pacifiers, cover, and go down. And she was squirreling them away. So we're like, this is getting worse. This pacifier situation is getting worse. So I realized that wasn't quite working. My daughter is very, at that age, she was super distractible. And I so took advantage of it. She was just super happy-go-lucky at that age, but yeah, very distractible. And it was fun. It was fun. It was a super cute age. She's 2.5 now. Like she's very aware now. But she was just so funny. So my sister thought I was a crazy person. She was correct. I was a crazy person, but I grew a pair that day. And I told my husband, hey, she keeps looking around the crib, because she was still in a crib. She's looking around this crib looking for her pacifiers. What if, crazy thought, we transform her crib to its toddler bed stage and no pacifier? just totally distract her with, hey, you've got stuffed animals now and you can get in and out of your own bed, big girl bedding, all that. And very much she doesn't care about being a big girl. She very much cared about the new, like, I can get in and out of my own bed. She was having so much fun, and she was so well sleep trained that we just had to reinforce for it was less than a week. We had to reinforce, nope, it's bedtime. That was really it. And it wasn't her looking for a pacifier. It was her like, I can get out of bed and play. That was it. So we had to reinforce bedtime. But our daughter loves bedtime, loves sleep. She's an early bird. She loves to go to bed early, loves to wake up early. So we 100% used distraction to get rid of the pacifier because the slow weaning actually made her situation worse. And she was too young to understand pacifier fairy. Like, that wasn't going to click for her. Had she been like the age she's at now, 2.5, that totally would have been a consideration. But does anybody have any questions at all? Again, this guide is totally free. There's less chit chat. It's, if you have 1-year-old or older, here are your steps. If you have 1-year-old or less, here are your steps. Here is information for Gold Coast if you feel like you need more support, because a lot of this truly is going to be sleep training, reinforcing sleep habits. If you need more support in this process, they're phenomenal. They are just absolutely phenomenal. And they do virtual, which I love. And I also put our little weaning story in there as well. It was just wild to me how much that child loved that pacifier, and we were able to get rid of it without crying. It was not going to be everybody's story. I know that. I hear that. I hold space for that. But any questions you guys have, let me know. You can either DM me your email address. I will email you that free guide. You can go to my link tree, and in the link tree, the top one is the pacifier weaning guide, and you will get that instantly. But yeah, and nobody has any questions, I think that's where we're at. Anybody have any questions about pacifiers at all? No pacifiers? I know we really just talked about the weaning, and I liked that. Like, I think that was fantastic, actually. I think. No, I liked it. I really liked talking about the weaning. I want this to be helpful to other parents. We went through, gosh, we were so scared of trying to get her to sleep. We were so scared of pacifier weaning. We are so scared of potty training, which is happening next week. So maybe there will be a I have a great reference for potty training help if you need it, but oh my gosh, that's my third fear. So it was like the whole sleep thing, like the sleep training thing. It was pacifier weaning and potty training. So we're about to enter our third, help me, situation. But all right. Well, I think that's it. Good night, TikTok. Let's see. All right, and good night.